Okay, welcome to the podcast. My mom, Manchester Jan. We were just talking about, how's your wrist, by the way?
Not bad. I'm getting used to the throbbing. It's gone from excruciating to whatever. I'm waiting to get my cast off.
And you broke it. You were just walking and you tripped and you broke your wrist in a couple places.
I went through a wire on the street that was carelessly placed on top of leaves. And even though I pride myself on being cautious, very cautious, in a moment of distraction, my foot went through and catapulted me over to my right side.
Okay. And you have been managing your pain with...
I've been managing
gummies, or as you like to say, what do you call them, Mum?
What do I call them?
Pasties.
Do I? Well, I've been managing with drugs, gummies, you name it. I've been managing.
So I was actually thinking about that because I don't remember growing up. Like, is this your first foray into weed? Like, I don't think you really smoked weed when you were younger, did a lot of drugs.
No, I was never really a smoker.
Right.
My parents smoked. Somehow I couldn't stand the smell. I have tried weed over the years when I've been in California.
Oh, with Cousin Laura.
Yes, definitely. And anything made me high, like 2 puffs and I was gone.
You had a very low tolerance.
I had low tolerance. And I think I think it just never really appealed to me.
Right.
I think...
Until now.
Until
now.
Yes.
Later
Which
in life.
just goes to show you're never too old to try something new.
Okay. Well, maybe that's what we'll call the podcast, Mom. You're never too old to try something new. Well, and then it got me thinking because Robert and I, when we were in our teens, we were bad kids, but we did drugs and we drank and we did all the things. Were you aware? Like, and we didn't do hard drugs. It was mainly weed, but like we did some crazy things. And I feel like you were blissfully unaware of what we did.
Well, I do remember the odd incident with the liquor cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Dial a Beer.
That still exists, by the way.
God. And I remember you going out one Halloween and you got really sick and your crown was on back to front and we were leaving for Vegas the next day. And sadly, we were leaving Robert in charge.
I remember. And you know who drove me home that night?
Yes.
Cal's parents.
I remember.
They were the strictest parents. It was the first time I got really sick from alcohol. I filled up water bottles with Baileys and all the things. Got really sick that night. And she's Armenian. Her parents were the most strict. And they basically picked me up out of this bush and brought me home. And I was sick all night. I don't remember you being mad, though.
I think what happened is we were always of the mind that if you deny your kids access, whether it's to sweets, alcohol, whatever it is, well, I didn't know drugs at the time. I think we always felt denying you would make you want it even more. That was always the thought. And we knew that you were good kids and we knew that you'd have the odd misdemeanor. And we knew that Dad, when he was younger,
he was a troublemaker.
Well, he was a troublemaker, and he spent a lot of time throwing up from liquor. So
that's where I got it from.
We always thought that once you did it, or you do it a couple of times, that it would really be off-putting to you.
It took me a long time, though, to figure that out.
I know.
I feel like this is literally 5 years ago that I just figured it out.
I know. And I guess you're more genetically like him. I mean, any friend I had who grew up and they got sick from alcohol, it put them off it right away.
Yeah.
So I suppose we thought that...
20 years.
I suppose we thought, and Robert, well, I guess,
like he's still learning.
He's still learning. But
you were always so, like, I remember, do you remember that one conference? So our family used to own a paint and wallpaper shop and used to run like the accessories showroom or whatever store. And we would go to a trade show every year.
Yes.
Do you remember the trade show in New York that one year?
Yes.
I got so sick. I was throwing up all night.
Why were you so sick?
From alcohol. I was doing we were at a club. I was out all night and you were like, and this was always your mentality. You would never get mad, but you said, we have an appointment at this trade show at 9 a.m. You have to be at breakfast at 8. I don't care what you do the night before, how sick you are, whatever you do.
That was liberal of me.
But you will be on time
Yeah.
and you will show up. And I always did. And I honestly think that work ethic has literally carried me through like life. Like, I feel like that kind of attitude of, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do, but you're going to show up.
Well, I think that was very important. I think that you being a hard worker, it was very important that you did have those ethics, that you carried them through, that, you know, you're going to screw up in life. I mean, who isn't? But I think that it was always really important that you did show up. And I hope that you will pass that on to your kids too, that it's very important that they are present and they make a commitment, and that's the end of it.
Okay, we're working on it. But I think it's good. I feel like I am laid back like you are.
I think it's important. I think being ultra strict was never my thing. My own parents were, in a way, laid back. I mean,
your dad, Grandpa Sid, he was the most strict. When you used to go away and he would babysit us, we would be 5 minutes late. He would call the police. The police would be at our house.
He was a worrier. That was why. He was a worrier. It was a nice person, but he was a worrier. Yeah. But you're right in that respect. I think as a teen, when I was growing up, I remember going to a party one night and they were in bed asleep. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go to this party. Whatever happens, happens. And I remember they woke up and I wasn't home, and they called my friends, God knows, and they were like, oh, she's gone to a party. Right. And I remember that I got grounded. And they were furious with me, but it was worth it. You know, I had an opportunity. I was going to take it. I was going to have fun. And you know
life
what?
Lesson.
Those are the consequences.
Go to the party.
And but I think in general, they weren't really like, we were good kids. They weren't crazy strict. Where were we going to go in those days, really?
Right.
You know, and the communication was different.
Oh, the communication. My mom basically just got a phone, Ryan. It's been challenging. You're just learning technology. Well, it's very new for you.
Well, no, I mean, I think I know technology, but unfortunately I'm limited because I haven't really experienced it in the last few years. So now I'm just on it, you know, the phone.
You're not bad. You love emojis. You love emojis.
And I like being part of this texting world with my kids, my grandkids. Yeah. You know, I feel, you know, I was feeling left out, and I think it was a good move for me.
I think it's a great move. Yeah. I think is your mom on, like,
she's actually, one thing I will say about her, she's phenomenal with like technology. Like, she's always up to date. She always knows what's going on. But I find if you go from nothing to an iPhone, like that's challenging.
I went from, you know, I literally
went from a typewriter to an iPhone.
Yeah, that's going to be very
I hadn't
difficult.
had a phone in years, and I think I got this phone last spring, and it just opened up a whole world with texting and photos and now
Uber.
And Uber Eats. Yeah, Uber's my new best friend. Yeah. Marvelous.
Yeah, well, especially with your wrist. So
especially with my wrist.
Yeah, although I will get messages basically every few days being like, and you spell it Uber, you're like, my Uber is not working. So I have to call you an Uber. And the fact that you really, like, you haven't live streamed yourself on the toilet is, Benji and I are always like, this is amazing.
I'm not taking it in the loo with me. No? I'm British. Unless it's a really nice loo. Unless it's won the Loo of the Year award.
You're not bringing it in the bathroom? Well, most people are texting on the toilet or scrolling Instagram.
That's not my age group.
Right. Oh, you'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I feel like the bathroom's sacrosanct. I mean, it's not mine.
I feel like that's where most people get most of their scrolling done.
100%. Well, that's like when you have a free minute, it's like you are.
Well, I mean, I'm a senior. I have lots of free minutes.
Okay.
You know, I'm not like, you know, running anywhere or doing anything.
You're not bringing it with you.
It is kind of gross.
It is gross. Well, especially when you think most people don't clean their phones very often.
No.
And it's like you're bringing that phone into the bathroom and then using it to record like a recipe or something.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
No, it's not my scene, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll stick with outside the loo.
I was actually gonna bring that up because we talked about on one of the last podcasts, you know, the cooking challenge we did together.
Yes.
You remember how I beat you?
Yes.
So we got some messages about that because I feel like people, I told my side of the story where I
Yes.
got my finger cut. And I feel like you have a different view of what happened.
Oh, I don't want to say my view.
Well, what was your view? I think you felt like you were robbed of a title.
I can either tell you the truth or not tell you the truth.
Well, this is a place of authenticity. You can tell people.
You might not like it.
Honestly, that is one of my favorite stories on the podcast.
Well, and Benji's like, because
Okay, if I tell you the truth, don't go mad.
Okay, Mom, let's hear it. What is the why? Let's hear it. I can take it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What really happened that day was that Maria from Big Coat Productions came up to me.
Remember her name?
Because she came into the store and she said, I'm really sorry. You are the better cook, but it's TV and we have to give it to your daughter.
I cannot.
I swear.
No.
Ryan, I'm hearing this for the first time.
How long ago was this?
This was years ago.
10 years ago.
But
12 years ago. I hadn't had Romy yet, so it's over 10
but
years.
the thing is, it was such a to do with that cooking, but she did apologize to me and she said, I'm sorry, it's television and we can't have it so that you win it.
I can't believe this.
Well, I am more experienced, but
You could be more experienced, but not necessarily better.
not
You're a different kind of
necessarily.
cook. You're more of like an old world, like you make really good brisket and chicken
I know,
soup.
but I could be a good modern cook too. I have a good imagination and I've always been creative in the kitchen.
You know what we should do? We should do.
So
We should film another
We should film.
competition.
We should have a box of random ingredients, a set time, and we should redo it.
Okay. But as far as I was concerned, for your age, I thought you did amazing.
I mean, thanks, Mom. You just
No, but I mean, I
Crushed you.
really
just
did.
crushed me.
No,
I thought I won fair and square, and I won with a broken finger.
it was just I don't know, as you would say, a shit show.
It was.
It was like the finger and the recipes and whatever.
It was
But
a shit show.
The thing was, my brisket was better than your chicken. And then we were pretty even.
But it was. You won that.
I did.
So it was like 3 rounds. So, and we already talked about
Yes.
this on the podcast, but you
Yes.
won that round, which I
Yes.
agree. Your brisket was better than my chicken cacciatore. There was no
and
question.
then I think we were kind of even at the end. I think we were voted even.
Well,
and
Mom, it was a blind chef. It was a blind
I
tasting
know, it was
with Dad,
2-2.
Benji, and a chef.
I hear you. But she did come up to me and say,
All right. Well, I guess we need closure on this
I just
because,
lost my faith in all of television.
well, yeah, I know. Surprise, surprise, Ryan. Your reality TV is not so real.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's what one of Aaron's friends, she told me years ago, was on Love It or List It, and they film apparently 2 endings at the end of every show.
Really?
And then they
That's
film.
a show I've watched a lot, actually.
So there you go, Ryan.
Yeah.
They film a Love It and they film a List It at the end, and then I guess they decide what they need more of.
yeah.
Because they've got to keep it balanced. You can't have every single episode where you're loving it or every
Yeah.
single episode where you're listing it.
Well, I mean, I think the obvious choice was me, and then they wanted to switch it and which was
Why was it the obvious choice?
well, not the obvious because I was more experienced, but I think at the end of the day, she did take me aside.
No wonder, because I always thought all these years I was like, I'm surprised Mom isn't more bitter about this loss, and that's clearly why.
But the truth was, I was happy to do it with you, and I said that in the show that made me feel good. I didn't care.
I disagree. I think you did care. I think you did care. That's really sweet, Mom. I think you did care.
Well, I think at the time
We'll do another competition.
to make sure you win.
I feel like we'll do another one. So we've got a trip planned at the end of January.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
taking my mom away to Turks and Caicos. Yeah. You know what? You're a really good traveler. You're really, especially for your age group. We went to London over the summer.
Yes.
I have to say, honestly, so I surprised you for your 70th, belated 70th.
Yes.
We went to Adele. We had an overnight flight where we barely slept. We walked around all day the next day, stood at that Adele concert for 5-6 hours.
Yes.
And like, you did not You did not complain.
No.
You were really go with the flow.
Yes, I've always tried in life to go with the flow. And I'll tell you, it's a good life lesson. I think you're like that. Robert, not so much.
No.
And then of your kids,
Who's go with the flow?
who I think it's very important in life to go with the flow because things are always changing and moving. And
My kids seem pretty intense, but maybe it's a tough age to determine who's go with the
yes,
flow.
but you can
Zach
still
seems
see.
go with the flow, but he's the
Yes.
fourth.
But
He doesn't even know what's going
but you
on.
were good like that. You were sort of quite flexible, and you were always up for things. And
Yeah.
I always thought that was an important quality in life
Yeah.
to go with the flow.
Yeah.
You
You are
know.
very go with the flow.
Because I think just not to be so hemmed in by everything.
Yeah.
And you never know what can happen, where you can go, what you can do,
Who you're going to meet.
who you're going to meet.
You, especially Mom.
I know.
You will literally,
I should have really been in TV. I think I
you
missed
should
my
have been
way.
in something. I don't
I
know.
know.
Like you would go to the bathroom and come out with a new best friend. I'm like, were
know.
you taking a shit and literally making a friend? You won't be on the toilet on your phone, but you will be on the toilet and literally make a new best friend.
Well, I think I don't know if it was growing up in England, because I think that we always felt it was important to meet people, be open to people. You never know.
Grandma's like that too. Grandma
yes,
is very so.
yes.
Grandma Rita, my mom's mom, who's 97.
She's always still making new friends.
She worked at Winners for I don't know how many
About
years.
15
and I
years.
remember when I was
Yes.
younger, people would be like, "Your grandma is
Yes.
like she was a sales
Yes.
gal. She was just always so social."
Yes. But I think it comes down to being interested in people. I think when you're interested in people and you're open to people, your life changes. You meet people from all walks of life and they impart information. And I think it's always been important to me, and especially leaving home in my 20s. It was very important to me to open my world up in a different way.
Right.
And you don't always want to have friends who have the exact same background as you, because then you'll see the world from this narrow perspective. You really want to be open to people that you meet who, can challenge you in some way and you can learn from them. So
That's very good advice, Mom. Very good advice.
and I think it's good advice for the kids. And I think it's why when you're out of school or you're out of your comfort zone, you are more likely to be yourself. Let's say for Romy, it's the swim club. For Ella, it could be her gymnastics. For Gemma, the baseball. So you're not with the same group all the time.
Totally.
Who see the world in the same way. And it opens you up. And I think that's very important to your experiences in life.
Yeah, agree. Well, I think you're in a bubble, right? People are in their bubbles.
Yes.
And I always find it so funny when people are like, "Oh, I've had the same friends since I was 2." I'm like, well, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. But also, how cool is it to meet people at different stages of your life? And to your point, kind of like grow and get outside of that bubble of whatever it is, your neighborhood, your school, because it's like, I can see even with my kids, it's like if they didn't have these activities like Robert had with hockey, for example, he was exposed to so many other kinds of people and things versus just one school, one camp, one neighborhood where you're around all the same things.
Well, and you were through the French school. So he had it through hockey. And then culturally, you're from different places, you have different food, you have different activities, and you did have it through the French school. And I always thought, we both thought, Dad and I, that was very important to your growing up, to, developing you as young adults and adolescents, taking those jobs in your teens and, they're learning experiences. You wouldn't normally do that. Well, we found that in our teens, that we thought it was very important to have those jobs that, maybe wouldn't be career moves, but that you could actually meet new people, learn from them and have these experiences. And if they didn't work out, they didn't work out. What was lost, really.
Yeah. Papers Catering, one of my favorite jobs.
Papers Catering.
Catering on
yes.
movie sets and concerts.
Yeah.
It was a great job.
And you did a painting for The Office. You did all that.
Yeah.
You know, so that is important. It's still important. Even though times change, it's still important to have those valuable lessons, especially during your teens and your early 20s. They're big growing years and developmental years. So you do want different experiences. Or, you know, like I went away to Israel. I went on a 6-week trip when I was 18, and then I went back when I was 21. I worked at the Sharon Hotel for the summer.
Oh, you worked at a hotel?
I did. I worked.
Oh. What did you do there, man?
I waited on. Oh my God! It was at the Sharon Hotel, and there was 4 of us, and we found if we worked from 6 to 10 in the evening, we made almost the same money as if we worked 8 hours, and then we could.
Tips.
Then we could.
Did you have a uniform?
I didn't have a uniform, but at the time, the British soccer team stayed at that hotel.
Ooh,
it was
please
a big
tell me
deal.
you hooked up with someone from the soccer team.
Well, I could lie and say I did.
Oh.
But I remember Sir Matt Busby headed it and Bobby Charlton, like a lot of famous players, and they were very nice to us because we were from Manchester and, you know, we couldn't really carry a tray and
Well, you had
whatever.
the accent.
I had the accent.
That accent, honestly, Mum.
And Barbara Streisand was staying at that hotel, I remember at the time.
Did you meet her?
No, she was kept to herself.
We were just talking about this with Ryan. You love a good celebrity.
I do.
We just shared with
do.
my mom that your uncle is David Furnish, and she was very excited about that connection.
I was.
Well, and
very.
you had that meeting with John Travolta when you were younger too.
I did. I was always one that loved a celebrity. So
I inherited that gene.
So I met John Travolta in Niagara-on-the-Lake many years ago, and he had a photograph with us, and he was very friendly.
Well, no one would. What was the story? You got a little bit wasted. You got a little bit drunk at dinner.
No, what happened was, yes, I'd had a glass of wine, and then somebody said, "Oh, I remember. We were with a group." And it was a friend's birthday, and she said her birthday was boring. And the waitress said, well, John Travolta's in the next room if you really want to make a birthday special. And I remember Dad said, under no circumstances go into that room and bother him. And I go, bye. And
cool, I'm not listening to you.
Anyway, and I originally thought I'd get his autograph. Then I thought, well, that's boring. And he was in with this group.
And this was like at the height of his popularity.
Well, it was just a bit before, and he was with...
it after Grease?
No, it was before.
Okay.
And he was with Dave Thomas from Second City, who was not friendly. Okay. But I ignored that. And I went up to John and I just said, look,
John.
I just said, it's my girlfriend's birthday and we're such big fans of yours. How would you feel about having a photo with us? And he said, no problem. And he came in. And I always remember we had this close friend, Stephen, who unfortunately passed away young. And I remember we all lined up and he said, John, we need you to smile. And then we all had a photo with him. And I have a photo and a T-shirt.
Yeah, the photo got blown up on a T-shirt.
I know.
And
I know.
I think
as long as you're just like, I've seen that interaction before. And I feel the same way sometimes where I'm like, I don't know if I want to go and bother them. But I feel like if... like they are a celebrity, you do want to get a picture as long as you go about it the right way. Like
totally.
I feel like
it was also the 80s, you know, and I think
it was before the paparazzi. Before camera phones. It was like what they had like an old school camera
where they could get away with everything.
Yeah.
And it was Niagara-on-the-Lake, and he was so lovely.
And your accent, like honestly, Mom, like my biggest disappointment in life is that I don't have your accent.
Well, you did when you were little.
I absolutely did not, Mom.
Well,
I did not have an accent. I never did. I think I tried, and I can do your accent really well. But your accent is like people listen to it and just... Well, John Travolta is not going to say no to that accent.
And I'll tell you another funny story. Remember that girl? Is it Rosamund Pike?
Yeah. The really pretty, tall, blonde.
So I met her one day at the film festival, and I said to her, I just saw you in a movie. I said, oh, you were fabulous. I think it was Fugitive Pieces. She was with that Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. And
he's cute.
It was early in the morning.
He's short.
He is, of course. Anyway, she said to me,
of course.
She said, and what have you been in? She thought I was an actress. I said, oh, I'm just...
Like I've been on a chef show with my daughter Lauren, and I'm much better than her, as it turns out.
No.
Big Coat Productions.
No. Well, there
On
you
the
go.
W Network.
We did once go to Harbour 60, and Anthony Hopkins, Lord Anthony Hopkins, and Cuba Gooding Jr. were on the next table.
Lord Anthony
Anyway, this is a funny story.
Mom, he's not listening. This is
Anyway.
you don't have to be like Dame Judi Dench.
Anyway, what happened was, I remember we were like in awe. We were like right next to them. And about a year or two later, we took a friend to Harbour 60 for dinner, a British friend, a doctor. And we said, oh, we were sitting next to Lord Anthony Hopkins and Cuba Gooding Jr. And guess what he
Cuba, not
Cuba.
Cuba.
And guess what he said? Oh, he's my patient.
There you go.
Yes.
Isn't that a doctor-patient confidentiality?
Well, he never gave me his records or anything.
Well, I know, but I don't even know if they're allowed to say that.
Well, he did.
You know who was not nice? So, I used to work at Chorus, and Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City came.
Oh, I saw her.
And this was like, you're not at a restaurant. This was like she came for a meeting with the TV execs, whoever there. And my friend Alicia, who is celebrity obsessed, also the nicest person, went up to her and was like, would it be possible? I don't know if she asked it for a picture, autograph, whatever. She said no.
No.
She said no. And she has a bit of a reputation for not being so nice.
Yes, well, some of them do. What can you say?
Yeah.
And then when I was in the store, when I worked in the hardware store, we had a picture up of Catherine Zeta-Jones and Richard Gere from Chicago.
Did they come in?
Well, the Richard Gere stunt double did, but a lot of people used to think I was Catherine Zeta-Jones.
My girlfriend Sarah just cleaned Richard Gere's cuticles.
Yeah.
On a movie set.
Yeah.
I thought it was
said
hilarious.
I don't think he really spoke, right?
No, it was just like, and there was like a whole thing when he walked in the trailer that you have to be very quiet
Yes.
and move slowly and talk slowly. And it's like, it was like a whole like protocol when he showed up in the trailer to get his makeup and nails done.
That's so interesting. I wonder if that story was true. Didn't he put like a rat up his bum or something?
Well, he's unusual, but I just, funnily enough, I just rewatched Pretty Woman.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It
Great
was
movie.
very good. Some of the old movies were really good, but I think it's a different level of stardom. I mean, today,
Well, we were
who
talking about
knows?
this on the last podcast, like
Who knows?
celebrities with the younger generation,
Yeah.
like with girls who are in their 20s, like
Yes.
millennials. It's like it's influencers, content creators, not so much celebrities.
No,
Like even with
No.
my kids, like Jamie Milne was here, Everything
Yes.
Delish. I mean, my kids were like starstruck. I think you put them next to Richard Gere, they wouldn't even know who Richard Gere
Well,
is.
how are they going to know an
Well,
old
no, for
movie star?
sure.
But I did hear a funny story. I always loved the films, so I love going to the film festival. So part of the movies I like, the films, the theatre and movies. And we ended up seeing Sir Michael Caine. And
I've met Michael Caine before.
anyway, I have to
It's
tell you.
Sir Michael Caine,
Yeah,
right?
Sir Michael Caine.
Anyway, he told a story. We were in a small room and he said he was in LA and he'd just come to LA and he was with Cary Grant, who was a very famous movie star. And a woman came bounding up and said to Cary Grant, she didn't recognize him. She goes, "Oh my God, can you believe it? Michael Caine, I'm meeting Michael Caine." She had no clue who Cary Grant was. I mean, at the time, those old movie stars were like God. I mean, you never got to meet them. It was a very, very different world.
That's what I'm noticing from all your stories is from previous generation, a celebrity is so much different than what a celebrity is right now. It's like we know
Yes.
everything about our celebrities right now
Yes.
that make them almost unlikable. But before, when you knew nothing about them, they were put on such like a pedestal.
Well, there was a mysterious element.
Yes.
I mean, you would never, you would only know certain facts about the old movie stars. They were like stage and screen. They were very removed. And now, they're just not really, are they? They're
no, they're
Yeah.
right out in the open.
and you hear about them too many things, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and half of them are so staged. Like I was literally just listening to this other podcast where it's like celebrities literally which I mean, it's clear they do this. They hire photographers, they get their hair and makeup done and literally stand posed at the gas station, at the coffee shop. Like everything is so fake and artificial. Nothing's even real.
Well, I think I think going back to British TV, though, that's
love British TV.
I love British drama, British detective shows. And I think going back to British TV and British movies, a lot of them, aren't overly made up. And
Coronation Street.
Well, Coronation
Do you know
Street,
Coronation Street, Ryan?
Yeah, I've been watching it for years, but it's gone off. But I do like PBS, like a lot of the detective and those British shows, and they're so well delivered and the scripting is so good. And a lot of them do take place in the North. One of my cousins in England, a friend that she went to school with is actually owns a production company. She writes a lot for these drama series, and I think they're very, very good. I really do.
I feel like American TV's borrowed everything from British TV.
I think they have.
Yeah,
Well, there's usually always a spin-off of some of British.
All their ideas and just put more money
The
into
Office, whatever you name it. So many shows.
Yes, but you can't beat some of those British dramas, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
And then I've got to get into Netflix. That's my new thing.
Yeah, Mom. Well, I'll get on that. I know. I gotta
start with the iPhone. We'll work,
the iPhone. The iPhone we've done. We gotta get her on.
I want to see The White Lotus because Theo James is in it, and I love him.
Ooh. All right. Well, I know season 2 actually just ended. You know what, Mom? How about this? You can stay here after once this podcast is done. You can watch. Literally, you can binge watch White Lotus 1 and 2. I'll order you Uber Eats.
I'm playing Mahjong at 2.
Oh, well, you've got a couple hours. You can get some shows in.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
You never know. Anything else? Let's see.
I feel like that. I don't know. I think we're probably good. What do you think,
No,
Ryan?
that's great.
Yeah.
I've actually really, you do have an amazing accent and you're very captivating.
Oh.
Oh, God. Here we go,
Let's
Ryan.
continue.
Okay, Ryan, your next...
Anything else? I do want to say before I go that...
I feel like this is going to be emotional.
This is the end of 2022. A year where we've had a lot going on in the world, and I do hope that the coming year brings everyone many blessings, good health, happiness, and we can always help people and be kind to one another. And that would make me feel better in the world. And I'd like to send that message out for the coming new year to everybody.
You know what, Mom? I actually will say that because one of the things you did always teach me growing up, and I think it's been really important to me, is the lesson that you're either in a position to need help or give help.
Yes.
Always. And you really taught me that from a young age. And I think that's a really, really great lesson.
Well, my parents always were very charitable, and so were my husbands. And they always gave of, especially your time, and it's great to give money, but it's also good to give you time because it teaches you that everybody in the world is created differently. And it's always good to help people. And when you help people, ironically, you help yourself. And last night I watched the CNN Heroes, which is so moving. And it's amazing what people did and can do with very little. So for the new year, I send a message of love and peace and help whoever you can along the way. God bless.
Mom, maybe we should, we were just talking about who Rabbi Meir could have as his co-host. I mean, I'm kind of thinking...
I kind of want to start like a celebrity podcast with you.
Well, you could be do you ever listen to Not Skinny, Not Fat?
No, but I see her everywhere.
So she is like the big celebrity one. You could be like the celebrity podcaster for your generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, your celebrity stories were phenomenal.
You could cover, she's covering all the celebrities that are in the news. You could cover the elusive celebrities of your generation that no one really knows what's happening with them.
Okay, you don't mean like the people who've fallen by the wayside?
Like John, well, no, not people who are dead.
Well, but I can't get much out of them.
Well, no, but I don't know. There could be something there. Okay, well, think about it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of material to work with. If anything, though, we got to redo that cooking challenge.
Okay. Yeah, we got to. Yeah, I want to see that.
That's Jan 2023. We're gonna get it in the books
with 2 hands.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine? God, I'm gonna do it with your broken wrist. Okay, Mom. Well, it was so nice having you on. So nice chatting.
Always a pleasure to be with my daughter, whom I adore, who's a wonderful girl.
Okay. All right. Okay, love you, Mom. Okay, bye.